Good evening, everybody. I'm going to open up the Halifax Planning Board meeting. The Planning Board meeting is being recorded by Area 58 and can be viewed on YouTube. The agenda tonight, we are located at the Great Hall, is a hearing at 7 p.m. for 0 and 314 Plymouth Street to construct a 70 by 180 two-story, 25,200 total square footage storage building in a commercial business zone. Appointments, we have 416 Plymouth Street site plan review. We have discussions, an update on secretarial interviews, and an open meeting violation, Alan Diaz versus Amy L. Troop. We have mail from Pembroke and Hanson to go over, and bills from the Express newspaper. We do have meeting minutes in the works, but they won't be on our agenda this evening. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda as read?
Yeah. A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a notice of public hearing. The Halifax Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Board of Selectmen's meeting room at Halifax Town Hall. We switched to the Great Hall due to attendance. On the application by R&J LLC for a special permit to construct a storage facility to be located at 0 and 314 Plymouth Street, Halifax, Massachusetts 02338. Said property is owned by R&J LLC as shown on Assessor's Map 63, Lots 31-6. Book in the Registry of Deeds 38017, page 0343, to obtain a special permit as defined under Halifax zoning bylaw section 167-7D 13. Schedule of use regulations, specific use regulations for commercial buildings and structures exceeding 15,000 square feet. The applicant is seeking to construct a 70 by 180 two-story, 25,200 total square foot storage building in a commercial business zone. Petition number 981. Can I have a motion to open this hearing?
A motion to open hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. My name is Frederick McCarthy from Vertical Field Capital. We're a self-storage developer. Here we're actually acting as owner's representative. We represent R&J LLC. Excuse me, Robert and Joseph Peck, the owners of the property. I'm also here tonight with Larry Silva from Silva Engineering, our civil engineer, and Dennis Swart from JSA Architects, the architect. So I'll be kind of introducing the project and then obviously passing on for them for more details on the civil engineering and architecture. And I apologize in advance for losing my voice. So, as you said, Amy, the project that we're asking for is obviously the site approval of the site plan and also approval of the fact that one of the buildings will be in excess of the required 15,000 square feet. When we submitted the plan on January 23rd, it was going to be 25,200 square feet. We've actually shrunk it now by about 3,600. So it'll be around 22,000, 21,500 round numbers. So obviously by way of background, back in 2020, the owners of the property submitted an application for 40B affordable housing. That obviously has been put on the back burner for now. Back in 2021, there was another self-storage developer, not us, who was looking to acquire the property from R&J and build self-storage. That we've kind of gone back and read through a number of the meeting minutes from the planning board and the zoning board. That project seemed to be rejected at the time for 3 specific reasons. One of which is the building was too large, it was about 60,000 square feet. 2, the building was right on Plymouth Street. And 3, the building was kind of a more modern or industrial look and not something that was kind of keeping with the fabric of the town center. So listening to that, we basically said, okay, let us actually, instead of having the self-storage facility be right on Plymouth Street, move it back 400 feet plus. So the closest building is going to be 400 feet from Plymouth Street, with the majority of the buildings behind, maybe even further back than the 400 feet. Second, rather than one large building, we actually have 8 smaller buildings. 7 of the buildings, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, are all 1 story. Now those 1-story buildings, the largest one's only 5,400 square feet, and the rest are smaller. Then we have 1 building here, this is building H, that's the building in question. That's the one that we proposed for being 22,500, it's a 2-story building. It's now actually about 3,600 square feet less than that. So, not on the street, pushed back, the density is a lot less. And then these buildings will basically be, while they're going to be metal, they're going to be metal that's going to be painted in kind of the New England red barn look. And while the metal is going to be kind of in a board and batten fashion, so much more of a New England feel. And in addition to the fact that it will be surrounded by trees and bushes, and we are going to be behind 2 existing buildings already. So the view from Plymouth is not going to be that largely impactful. So that's kind of a quick introduction.
The one thing I did want to say, when you were talking about the reduction in the building, that's on a per floor.
Okay.
Because it actually is 50 by 180 total. So that's 50 by 180, so it's a 9,000.
So it's 7,200 square foot reduction. Okay. Thanks, Larry. Now we're below 20,000 square feet. So we're moving in the right direction. Do you want to?
So
I was kind of, do you want to? I was just introducing the project.
yeah, no, I was going to say, we can talk about the site, and then we should talk about the buildings. Do you want to lead with the buildings?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Dennis Swarton, I'm the president of DJS Architecture out of Raymond. We are the architects for this project. As you're well aware, there are 8 buildings on this site. Frederick just covered some of what I was going to talk about tonight. We have 7 of those buildings which are low 1-story self-storage buildings. The 8th building on the south side of the site is the 2-story self-storage building. Now, the 1-story self-storage buildings, those are all accessed from the exterior only. The 2-story building will be accessed from the interior only, so there'll be no exterior loading doors on that 2-story building. And as Frederick said, and you can see from some of the renderings we have here, these are the lower buildings, and these are the upper buildings. We've tried to replicate, particularly on the bigger building, a sort of a New England feel, a barn one with some board in the back, insulated metal panel. That sort of fits more with the area and what's going on out in front of the property. The existing, the 1-story buildings will be pre-engineered metal buildings. This building in the back, 2-story building, will be a steel frame building with insulated metal panel, similar to, that's the same sort of material that was used on O'Reilly Auto Parts. We're going to try to use it in a different way and sort of recreate a board and batten feel to that building. And the other thing that I really want to touch on is lighting. Let me talk about this real quick first.
I haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, this one, just go here. So these views here, these are rendering views we took from Route 104. Just to give you a little context here, this is if you're coming from, this is more sort of down by Dunkin' Donuts in that area, looking back towards our site. This view in the top left, as you can see, this building here is the O'Reilly. More on thanks. So this building here is the O'Reilly Auto Parts building. And you can sort of see what we have here for views from 104 back towards 106, back towards our property. This is the entrance drive. You can see these, as Frederick pointed out, that first building, which is 400 feet back from the road. This view over here is between the bank and O'Reilly Auto Parts, and you can catch a glimpse of our property beyond there. And then, again, this view is down by Dunkin' Donuts, and this is the large 2-story building. And as you can see, it's sort of the scale of it being set back so far, sort of help minimize the scale of that overall building. These are metal swatches. Those are the color selections that we'd like to share with you. And those will be on all 8 buildings. This view here is, these are the elevations of the 2-story metal building. Again, you can sort of see what we're trying to do here in terms of opening up these corners with some glass, creating a board and batten feel, putting some false windows along the sides to break up the facade. Then the last thing I want to touch on is lighting. So all of our buildings will have exterior lighting mounted to the building, but that lighting will be dark sky compliant and all be shielded. So all that light will be directed down towards the ground and not out towards any adjacent property. So you can see on this, it's sort of tough to tell here, but this yellow is where our light levels zero out along the property line. So you can see we don't have any spill onto adjacent property throughout our new development.
Do we have the lighting plan in our documents?
Yes.
Sure. Should we have a site package, I believe?
It's not in that PowerPoint, I call it. I think it's in the presentation you guys submitted earlier.
Yeah, I think it's probably true. Can we send it to you in your site package? What's that? Yeah. So,
And point out that on the 2-story, all the activity is on the opposite side, that's what the one is.
Not facing the street.
Not facing.
it's facing it's facing the golf course. So, let me apologize here.
Really made an effort, Vince has made a really great effort to make sure that the facades that are on the 106 side are not, number one, there's not a lot of activity. I've made it so that some of those are not doors that are being utilized. And also, from his design, is to make it so it's more fitting with, with the area.
And as Larry pointed out, I just want to show you the plan here. This facade here faces the golf course. So this is the first floor. This is the loading area will be facing the golf course. This faces 106 this way. So all the activity, as Larry pointed out, will be on the golf course side. We'll have a small entry door into an office here. Other than that, all the activity will be screened from view from the street.
All right, so I guess we get to talk about.
Question, is that how you do it? Well, I just had one about the driveway, as far as lighting goes on the entry exit, where there's only one going in and coming out. Where do you have you touched upon lighting? What about the driveway itself? I'm concerned about, emergency vehicles having to get in there, what you have for security. I understood from the last presentation there was some kind of security gate or whatnot.
That's correct.
And just so it's well lit and God forbid, knock on wood, there's any kind of problem in there, there's access.
There are pole
space.
lights along the access road coming in from the street. There are pole lights along the entrance until you get to the building. When he was saying that they're building mounted, That's all the ones once you're inside past the security gate.
And those will be shielded also?
Those are shielded also.
The driveway lights?
The dry ones are, and they were included in the evaluation for site lighting.
Okay, thank you.
So, I guess I've had the benefit of having done the site engineering as it related to the 40B project. So I was totally immersed into the issues that, faced, which around this area, which related to drainage and everything else. And so we kind of had a head start on that. We understood where the sensitive areas were. I've gotten to know Mrs. Halligan very well over the years. And so our goal was to make sure that there was no impact to not only her property, but basically to the whole area, and to make sure that any of the stormwater was being routed in a way that would make sense. Golf courses love stormwater. They love to have water. And so as you can see here in this area, there's two major pathways for water that goes through this site. This area here, as you see, there's a large detention basin, which we actually made it larger than the one that was originally proposed for the condo project, because we see that there's a lot of water coming in from the street that is going through the auto parts site, and it's dumping out into this area. So what we've done is we've also designed this in order to be able to handle that water and throttle that into the detention basin that we have, which this detention basin is really, for us, it's really handling this area of the site, more the entrance area. But we increased the size of it in order to handle that flow that's coming in from Plymouth Street. Once it gets throttled through this detention basin, it goes into the existing ditch that's here. And what we're proposing to do here is to take that and route that through out to the golf course and have that water bypass the area that's behind Mrs. Alger's house, where right now there is an easement that allows for water to come here, but it has to go down then towards her house to another ditch, come across, and also hits the golf course down in this area. That ditch will still be maintained in that area, but it will not be taking the flow from this project. The majority of the drainage is for the entire site here, the developed part of the storage. It goes all in this direction. It gets collected in through here, through series of catch basins and manholes, and it gets throttled to the backside adjacent to the golf course, goes through sediment forebay, cleaning and so forth, and then it goes through detention storage, and then goes down on its way into the golf course for additional flow for them to have the water, the storm water. So just to recap, the whole area that's really the storage facility is heading out this way, doesn't see anybody else except the golf course, okay? And the only water that's coming through this way here is the existing water that's coming from the project that's over, I don't know the name of it, it's Tonello's project on that side. His property over here, which actually connects into that ditch, has a right to go across here. It's going to take the flow that's coming from the entrance drive, and it also will handle the flow that's coming from Plymouth Street. I'm not sure how that ever came to be, but that's where it is. So we're trying to manage that and bring that through. Right now, my client's attorney has been working with, Attorney Alger, not related to the Algers, is working with them in order to try to redefine the easements that were in place before. I forgot the gentleman's name that used to own, was it Sturtevant? Yeah, the original easements that were on that property were related to Sturtevant. But they're going to rework those documents. There's two major things. One is to allow for this to come across this way here. But the biggest issue is to make sure that there is wording in there and assurances in there that the ditch, the existing ditch that's on this side, which is not related to this project, but the original easement, that's maintained, and also that this one is properly maintained so that there are no issues on the Alger property, and there's recourse for how to deal with it to make sure that these things are adequately regulated. I think aside from that, I think everyone has hit upon the major points here is that this storage facility is far back. It's been designed in a way that's sensitive to the viewpoints towards 106. And it's also done we're not involved in the actual site design of the adjoining property, but we're aware that there's going to be a shared entrance coming out, and so we've made provisions in order for them to be able to tie into it. And we're working with the traffic engineer that's designing the actual lights, the changes in the lights. There's a couple of things that have to be moved in order to make it work, the pole, the control, and so forth. And that configuration is being worked with, and so we're coordinating that to make sure that there are no issues as it relates to that project. Aside from that, that's really the overview of what we're proposing, and as was stated earlier, the size of the two-story was dramatically reduced down. It's made 20-foot narrower, and that's two-story, so that was a significant drop in the square footage. So we're really over the 15,000 by really over by 3,000. I think it is to 18,000 is really what we're asking for. With that, I'd answer whatever questions you might have, or any others.
What was the motivation to drop the size from 25,000 to 18,000 to fit in the bylaws more?
It was when we looked at all the considerations, including fire access, making sure fire trucks could get around, make sure that we had that there's actually fire paths shown in the site plan that show how how the truck is able to access everywhere. And I should tell you that back building is a sprinkled building. Okay, and so when we were doing those kind of things and making sure we were refining the design, it became necessary for me to make that building slightly smaller.
Is there a fence around the perimeter?
Yes, there is. And there's a security gate when you enter the storage part of it. And that would also, with it have, obviously, fire department override in order to be able to get through it, should there be an issue.
I was thinking more if I could get my golf ball, my sail before playing.
And you did line up the entrance with the Stop and Shop entrance?
Yes. Yeah, that's why some of there's a little conflict with utilities that are there, so there is, there's a little bit of consideration in there to make that work. We understood that was an issue back when we were dealing with the condo project.
Right.
When you say you're going to maintain that ditch, what are you talking? Going to pipe it? You're going to, because there is a water problem there. I don't know if you've seen the videos or whatnot between O'Reilly's and heading down towards the entranceway. There is a considerable amount of water coming through there. So you would make mention that you would maintain the existing one. What are your plans on, how are you going to do that? How are you going to maintain it?
Well, the vegetation has to be controlled within the ditch to make sure that it maintains its hydraulic capacity to be able to go through. So the ditch itself needs to be kept clean in order to allow for the outfall from the detention basin to be able to find its way to this other head wall here. Which
I'm
has
specifically talking about the one on the Elgis property, which is between 106 and what you're showing there. You said you were going to maintain the existing one.
The one between,
The one closest to the
the one that goes through the auto parts, you mean?
No.
No,
Back right.
right behind the Elgis property.
Okay, here you're talking about. This one?
And
Well, there's one right here.
That's the one I'm talking about.
The existing one is right here.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so number one, the flow that was coming from this ditch now that went down this way and came across and went through there, that flow is being taken out totally. So there's a significant reduction in the amount of flow that ditch is even going to see. It's not going to see a lot of flow. Okay? And so there has to be, and that's in the wording of the drainage easements, is that has to be maintained so that, because the concern was that vegetation that occurs when it enters into the golf course gets overgrown and it kind of retards the flow from being able to get out of here. So that's,
Basically, you're talking, you're gonna cut the bushes.
they're gonna cut back the vegetation to make sure that the channel that allows for it to go across is maintained open, and that there's a way that if there is an issue that Mrs. Alger sees that's there, that there's a mechanism for that to be able to result in somebody getting out there, you know, if it hadn't been done already.
So in the Conservation Committee meeting, which was February 14th, what they requested and we agreed to is that we would not only just maintain, but we would provide the board or the committee with the inspection reports, how we're assessing whether or not they're being maintained properly, that there's adequate flow along stuff. And so we agreed with Conservation that we haven't decided how often, but whatever it would be, and if you need to speak more about how we'll maintain the drainage, Joey's, you know, he knows the property better than I do, but we're going to provide reports and make sure that the water is able to flow from there. That being said, as Larry said, there is going to be significantly less water entering. Well, that drain is going to be responsible for less water than it is today.
Okay, would you object to like an annual inspection?
To be honest with you, I thought we were going to, I think annual was far less than we thought. Yeah, semi-annual, quarterly, whatever it is. You know, like I said, we want the water to flow as well, so.
We discussed also one of the conditions that we're still going to be maintaining it. You know, we kind of learned by our mistakes here at Halifax. At the other storage facility, they allow outside storage of vehicles, recreation vehicles, RVs, and we kind of touched upon it before that we would agree that there will be none of that here on this site.
That is correct. There will not be, because remember also, we have a golf course that is unabutted to this as well. And they don't want to see that either.
If anything, the view from the course, you know, the most impacted neighbors, I mean, in some cases, fortunately, is us. But, you know, aesthetics play large on the golf course. And to Mark's point, we don't want people coming up and looking at someone's 25-year-old boat that's just been sitting there for, oh, sorry. We want to, it's important to us. Frankly, one of the reasons we bought the property was in part to protect the course. So it's in our best interest as well as the town's to maintain the aesthetics as
So
much as
there's
we
no
can.
problem if that was a condition listed on.
Absolutely not.
Not a problem.
And on the second story, I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
On the second story, it's strictly used for storage. It's not going to be converted to any kind of office space or offices or anything. There's storage units.
No, what I should show you is the office, the only office that is on this facility is in the front of that first building.
Okay.
That's where the office is, that's where the rental units, that's where you go to do your business here.
And that.
This is all storage.
The septic system that's required for the office and all
The
that.
septic system, the discharge from here goes to a septic tank, a pump, and the force main that goes around in the leaching field is right on the back side of this building right here.
Okay.
Hold on, wait, we gotta listen to this and then we shut it down and we open it up for public discussion.
When you say throttle the water, is there some sort of system or is it just a quick dive?
No, what throttle means is deep, when you hear the word detention basin, detention basin is just that, it throttles. The rate at which water comes in, it doesn't go out at that same rate. It goes out at a slower rate, and the basin itself stores water and only lets it out at a controlled rate, which is less than when it's coming in order to have no increase in the rate at which water leaves there from the existing condition to the proposed condition. That's how you do it. So.
Thank you.
It has limited ability to recharge in the ground, okay, but it's primarily, it's for throttling. There is a little bit of recharge in the sandy layer above, but there's not much. It's pretty much you get into the,
Is recharging and burping the same thing? I'm sorry, I don't know.
well, recharging in drainage is percolation of water,
Okay.
similar to what you would have in a septic system percolating. That's what's referred to as recharging. But infiltration or recharge, which are the terms that are used in drainage, is not a major component here. It's more, we almost ignore the fact that some of it might go in the ground because we want to make sure that we can handle the volume as it's being detained and throttled through.
I have a question over the public.
Do you get that? Did you receive from the Board of Health any, their comments?
Their comments from the Board of Health is that we held off on submitting the formal plan to them for approval only because in the case there were any kind of substantive change that might occur.
Okay.
So, but we are going to submit it now. We're not afraid to do it now at this point. We think that everything is stood still as to where everything is located.
Okay, and then you did receive, through Ashley Morley yesterday, a resident's email.
Ashley works for me.
She received an email from one of our residents, and I didn't know if you guys saw.
Yeah, we did receive that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did receive that.
What was it?
Oh, really?
Oh,
I just wanted to make sure.
And we did also receive comments as it related to the fire department. I don't know if the fire department had actually reviewed the plans and saw that we had addressed those issues, but they just wanted to make sure that there was going to be ability for their trucks to be able to get in and out of the site.
Yes, for the turning radius.
Yeah, and it's actually shown on the plans.
on the original plan, was the original plan showing a two-story building as a sprinkler building?
Yes.
It was.
Yeah, the size is required for the sprinkler by law, so.
Yeah. We have a hydrant that's adjacent to it, and we have two lines coming in, well, we have one line coming in for fire protection on that building.
What they call it, closed loop, is that what it is? The fire, the hydrant, the water coming in and out, there's one hydrant, is that correct?
There's a hydrant towards the front of the site, and there's one in the back of the site. There's an entrance, there's one along the entrance road coming in, and then there's one down on the back side here.
Will this be manned 24 hours or will there hours of operation?
There's hours of operation. So there's access hours and there's office hours. Access hours might be something like, 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And then office hours, when there's actually staff there, would be, 9 to 5 or something shorter, really short.
So there wouldn't be people coming in and out at 12, 1, 2 in the morning?
No.
I'm gonna read this resident's email into record, and then we're gonna open up to public discussion afterwards. Dear members of the planning board, please deny the special permit sought by RNJ LLC to construct a two-story storage facility located at 0314 Plymouth Street in Halifax, Massachusetts. We do not need another massive cheap metal building occupying the center of our beautiful town. Anyone who has seen a metal building after 10 to 20 years in our climate knows it is not something that anybody finds aesthetically pleasing in their community. Any special permit that is granted should only occur after the developer has provided improved architectural design and landscaping plans that better fit within our small New England town landscape. I have attached an image of an example commercial building with design characteristics that, in my opinion, our town should be seeking from developers. We only have so much land, and it's a limited and ever-dwindling resource. If developers want to build here, then we should be requiring these concessions from them. Sincerely, Jeremy Gillespie.
How many units total, how many square feet is total between the 830?
Yeah, I don't believe the final number has been determined yet. I don't have an exact number of how many units we have have in each one. I can dig it out before the end of this meeting, Judge.
Oh, because they're different size units, they're small,
Yeah.
medium, and large, so to speak.
So what normally happens is, and I'm gonna cut it off right now, is the footprint will not change, but it'll go to whoever is operating the facility, and they'll do an interior layout to maximize the number of units, and it may depend on geography. Some regions might need more smaller 5x5 units, some regions might need a larger 10x10 unit, and I don't believe that has been fully determined yet at this point, Trevor.
Can these change, can they change sizes as they go?
Once it's
Like you
built.
said, if, like 2 years down the road, we need more small ones, we need big ones, can you actually change them like petitions or no?
We don't operate them, so I don't know if what's happened after we've built them, if they've gone back and done that. Frederick may have better.
Sure, so round numbers, so the average size of the self-storage unit is a 10 by 10. So in this case, the property is going to be about 42,000 square feet, so it's about 420 units. But as Dennis was saying, you might have some as small as 5 by 5s, you'll have, 5 by 10, 10 by 10, 10 by 15, 10 by 20. So in this case, Extra Space is a third-party manager. Extra Space is the second largest publicly traded self-storage self-storage company in the United States. They own and manage over 2,300 of them nationally. So what they typically do is they'll say, okay, we have properties in Plymouth, in Bridgewater, in Pembroke, and we know from them that this is what's renting and this is what's not. So they'll kind of give a final layout configuration as to kind of the number of small, medium, and large.
Okay.
But on average, the average is usually about 10, about 10.
Do we choose buildings, do they all have their own or separate or burglar alarm systems? So if after hours somebody does climb the fence and gets into the building, they all monitored?
Yeah, they're all separately monitored in terms of alarms and cameras, so that, obviously that way you want to make sure that someone doesn't break into one or more of them. So
Exactly.
There is 24-hour alarm and video surveillance.
Good, thank
And
you.
locks. Sorry, I didn't answer your question. In theory, you can reconfigure them after they're designed. In reality, that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
You usually spend more time making sure that you have the right mix to begin with.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of history with Extra Space. I did a lot of work with them in the 1980s and 90s. And they're very reputable as far as operating storage facilities. Very, very good company.
We're ready for our public comment. We're just going to ask that you come up to the podium over here, speak your name and address for the record, and we'll be glad to listen to you and answer any questions we have.
Also, just as a reminder that we like to remind everybody at every meeting where we open it up to the public, when you are at the podium, you are to speak to us, not to the people recommending the project. That is to keep it efficient and respectful to everybody involved. So it's easy to want to talk to them. Talk to them through us. How's that? Cool? Thank you.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any questions?
My name's Howard Easton, and I live on Onset Street, on the 5th fairway for golf course. They have a retention pond out back. This water that's gonna come off of Plymouth Street and run down, and you have a stream, or whatever you wanna call it, a gully. And the water is gonna go down towards the golf course. Does the golf course enlarge their retention pond? With all the rain that we've had this year, the pond seems to be level with the grass. So there's really not a lot of room for more storage there, so in the winter months. So will they increase the size of it? Will they attention?
Please.
And the answer, as I told you, is that we've included detention basin, which is storage for water in these locations here, in order to handle that additional volume, which is over the existing conditions. Okay, for the time period of a storm event, up to 72 hours later, it'll be back to normal elevations and the storage is back. So it's, as I say, it throttles it out over a 72-hour period, any kind of increase in flow. So that's all taken into account, meaning the fact that we're storing those two storage areas.
My concern is every year there's a water problem. I get water in the basement per se. It is low enough to have a French drain in there to take it away. But there's a set of pipes that go from my house out to that retention pond that the builders put in there when they built the house in 76 or 78. So that's what I'm concerned about, this water building up. It seems to roll down to the basement and then get picked up by the pipes and brought out to that retention pond.
Mr. Eastman, I'm sorry, what was your address again?
224 Montponton Street.
So could you address the drainage segment on Ponset?
Sure.
Towards the club?
Well, I'll address when you talk about the retention pond, you're talking about the one on that you can see from your backyard, basically, correct? On the fourth hole between 4 and 2.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, so it's where are we here?
It's
It's right in here. Okay, so one, that's the first area that gets filled up with water. When the water comes from here, it's gonna go into there. That pond is the one that's most likely to have water in it, because when it gets to a certain height, it overflows into the big pond on 2, which then once that fills up, flows into the largest pond, which is the one behind there, the driving range pond, which is the main source of water for the golf course. So it's common that there's water in the pond on 4, but it hasn't breached the threshold to drain down to 2. Because in the last year, and certainly the years before that, the pond on 11, the driving range pond, the pond on 2, you could almost pick golf balls out of them because there was no water in them, but there was still water on 4, because that's the first pond to capture water. That pond will never fill up. It'll always, once again, it'll hit the overflow pipe, go from that pond to this pond. From this pond, it also can go to the pond on 11, which is unlikely because it most likely goes to the largest pond, which is the main source of irrigation with the golf course.
So where's this water coming from that's going into his basin?
Once again, I don't know where his water's going. I'm just saying, I was speaking with regards to it seemed like we were at capacity with the 4.
If there was an actual flow from Ponset Street down towards the water.
And it may be a groundwater level situation. We don't really, it's hard to answer that question as to what is.
But topographically, what not the
It's probably not
running
going to
into his property.
exacerbate.
No, and it's not going to, this project will not reduce the capacity to take water into the retention pond on 4 or 2. Because your house is next, I believe it's the house next to, 224 is next to.
And are you are you the third house after the peach farm?
Should be from the pond, I tell everybody it's the 6th house on the right-hand side.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to be their neighbor. When we were
Yeah, that's what I was
young.
trying to think, it must have been next to
They heard,
that.
yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of, to be honest on that, that's the high ground too. So water should flow from there. Once again, I don't look to
It does flow to the house, but it's almost like March 1st or the end of February. The ground is always hot, and then you bring in a rainstorm. Now we got a problem. So if this water here doesn't have a place to go, it finds one in my basement. Now, tomorrow we'll be there 40 years, and the cellar is flooded twice. The second day we own the house, and the 10th year, same dates, March. So that's why I'm concerned about, is that water going to go down and that retention pond overflow, will it overflow?
That was the design of that, is to specifically make sure it has 3 or 4 different places to go.
And it's going away from, its end game is to be away from that area.
Away from the residential, more towards use for the.
There's almost an infinite capacity to take water, it's just a function, as Larry said, it's a function of time. But it's unlikely for us to have full retention ponds on the golf course, no matter what we do here. And because of the way they are all interconnected, like you said, 4 is the first, you'll see the water in, ultimately it's all going to end up in the irrigation pond.
Anybody else?
I have a question for you, if you don't, so, excuse me pointing, I meant this, yes, for you, if you don't mind. Yes, so, I've been on the board for 2 years now, and you've come in to express your concern for water in your yard often, and it's the number one thing I take into consideration when a new project comes in and you're here, because the last thing I want is you dealing with water in your backyard, more so than you need to based off of this. So for my own personal peace of mind, after your conversations on this project, do you feel confident that that will solve and deter any kind of water that's going to be accumulated in your backyard?
Bill, you want me to go with it?
Sure. And I know, obviously, for the record, you're not a water drainage specialist. It's just as I would like your opinion as a resident that is here often. So.
Thank you, Tina.
I'm Tina Alger, 340 Plymouth. My answer to your question is, I think Larry is very truthful. I think he tries to work with both parties.
Thanks, Larry.
I think he tries to work with both parties. We have become, I say, friends. And I don't think he would flood us out because we've gone through this large period of time. My biggest concern is the maintenance. It's never been maintained. It should have been maintained, but it never has. And I just want to be guaranteed that this is going to be maintained, because if it's not going to work.
Well, you'll have my cell phone number, so you can call me and I'll call them. How's that? When you need something to be maintained. If that's what we're gonna work into the agreement, then that's because that's obviously the number one reason why we're here, is to protect the residents and obviously the community, right? So after hearing about other projects that have potentially gone in and around their neighborhood, this is the number one thing has been water. And so if that's her biggest concern, I just want it on record to be addressed so that we can have it in the minutes, and that you can obviously address it and put something on as a statement.
Those inspections, I think, is another way of making sure.
So we will do whatever all the committees and ask us to. We are going to take more, we're improving the situation as it exists now, regardless of what we do with the property. We're going to improve it versus what it exists now. And in addition to whatever it says, whatever our contractual obligations are going to be, my brother and I are going to maintain the ditches. We will maintain the ditches. It's in our best interest as well. They said we want the water. I can't speak to anything up until now. I'm telling you, we're going to maintain the ditches. The water, you will have less water in your yard, save for, whatever. I can't control the skies, but you're going to have less, it's going to be less of a problem. It's going to be better than it is now.
Now, how much water are we planning in the future? I know it was made a remark here last, I think it was the Board of Appeals, that they want all the water that they can get. Now, how much more water are they looking for to come through there? That worries me.
So to be clear, that message has gotten a little polluted over the time. We don't want an infinite amount of water. Our capacity to handle water is near infinite, once again, save for time. But we're not looking to take We don't get into the discussion of trying to figure out how much water we can take, we're just trying to figure out if we can take all the water that exists now. So between what the situation is now with the land, what's coming off of Plymouth Street and backing up on the property behind O'Reilly's, and what will be generated from the new project, which is it's going to circumvent your property entirely, correct? We know we can take that much water. But to answer your question, we're not looking to take more water than that. You know, like I said, there's not, you can only water the grass so much, and you know, eventually it would have to go somewhere. We know that we have plenty of capacity to handle anything that we've seen from this area since July 2nd, 1986, when my father purchased the property. But we're not going to be out trying to get more water to go through there. And like I said, the only thing that we're changing with regards to your property is we're just cleaning up and solidifying our obligation to maintain that ditch. All the new water that's being generated by this project is going around the back and straight into our property.
And some of the existing water.
And some of the existing water.
Thanks, Robbie.
Good?
Another question I have, it doesn't pertain to the water. What kind of a fence is going to be up there around the property?
It'll be like a black pier fence. It's not gonna be razor wire or chain, it won't be chain link, it won't be razor wire, it won't be anything that's,
It's not going to be wooden.
Sorry?
It won't be a wooden fence
Usually they're
like
like
the
that.
bank has up because it rots out in a few years and it looks terrible.
It'll be a metal fence.
How high?
6 feet.
I think it's a 6.
6, I believe it's 6.
Can Billy talk? My son?
Bill Alger, 340 Post Street. There is going to be another swale in there, another ditch that he can explain to you that was on our property. Now it is going to be moved over onto their property. So that's going to take care of other water. So we can show that to you.
And that's good for you.
What's that?
And that's good for you.
Yes.
Good,
It's
okay.
going to be moved over into
Yeah.
that area.
Help continue to redirect the water that's finding its way into your backyard and more onto their property and into the catch basins and things of that nature.
They asked us to do that in the conservation meetings where they brought up moving the swale, and we agreed.
It doesn't really affect this project. It really is more related to the bank project that had been done before. Really didn't do a good job of handling water.
Yeah,
It's a way of rectifying that situation.
It's a measure of good faith.
Yeah,
for
so
making
it
up
becomes
for
more of a conservation-related issue, not so much a planning board issue.
Right, you didn't talk about it on February 14th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but it was important to me. So. Okay. You can ask.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
do that.
Thank you, Larry.
I don't mind the two-story building, but I think it should go at the beginning of the project, behind all the business that are already there. We're the only residents left in that area. There was 8 houses there, and we're the last ones. And we don't expect to leave there for a while. And I just don't see why we have to look at that great big building in our backyard. When all the businesses, they don't have to look out their window, they don't have to see it from their backyard. But we do. And I just think that if it can be moved, I would like it moved to the beginning of the property instead of right behind our house.
Robbie? Is that available?
I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, it must have something to do with emergency vehicles being able to get in and
Well,
around.
the reason why the two-story ends up here is if you can see the width of the site in this area versus this area. This width here between setbacks does not allow for 2 one-story buildings to be in this location. It only lends itself to the two-story building being in this location as opposed to any other location. Otherwise, you lose significant square footage, which makes it not economically viable to be down below a certain threshold. That's the reason why it's there. It wasn't like we're trying to put a two-story here and we're trying to put it in front of, or behind Mrs. Alger's house. It's just there, but it actually, the distance from the back of her house to that is over 400 feet from there. I mean, it's not that close. It's a difference from what she sees today, but it isn't that close. It is 400 feet away.
Mrs. Alger, can I speak to her?
Yep.
We're sensitive, like I said, we're sensitive to all these things, including what it looks like from her backyard. A lot of you know the history of this property. We bought this property in 2009, and it's turned out to be a very difficult property to get anything done with. Unfortunately, because the answer to your question is, if we can, we will, and they're looking. But what Larry said is, as far as now, it's not possible to make the project economically viable. It's not a question of making more than we need to make. It's very difficult to make this project work even under the current footprint. It's, we try to make as many of the concessions as we can, knowing, trying to keep it consistent with what we think will go best with the town. We will try to do whatever we can to appease, but I don't know that there's an economic route to us being able to do it.
I mean, there's things that you can do as far as planting giant arborvitaes to block the view, right? Specifically ones that match what are on the course. It would maintain aesthetics without you look out and you see a wall of arborvitaes rather than a big round park, right? That's it. If the project moves forward, I mean, you might as well throw that in there to ask that from an aesthetic standpoint, and that's going to be a heck of a lot more economically feasible than moving a two-story building, I would assume.
Like I said, we're open to finding any path forward here, but it has to work for sure.
Like burn like a 6 and 8 foot down the valley or something.
You put those, I mean, some of the giant ones.
They start at 6 and end at 60.
Yeah, you can get up to 60 to 20 feet. You put however many it takes to go across that, they get to 3 or 4 feet wide. That'll put a whole wall.
And that's something we would work with them or anyone else in terms.
In order to accomplish that, large ones like that, it might require that be incorporated into the easement discussion we talked about, because that strip after the fire access, that strip of land to the property line is not really wide. So if you wanted to have that screening to be very tall, it would be right on that borderline between the two properties. And with a planning easement, maybe we could really get up to some pretty tall ones.
Yeah, it would have to be most likely on your property, but it would solve the problem of looking out your back window and seeing the building.
Or apple trees.
And then again, there is no activity on that side of the building. Just to remember.
I think it's more of just waking up and looking at your back of your kitchen, seeing a big red barn, right? Which, although 400 feet away or whatever, but versus what she's looking out on now, would be a very different, it's, from my time here at least, and I don't, well, not the most, but from my time here, this is about as close to a project that I've heard you'd be okay with because of the water flow. So if it's something as far as some trees for aesthetic purposes, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, but.
No, I think that's doable at that point.
Chris?
Chris Winowitz, 129 Circuit Street. I was just having trouble picturing the red buildings. I was wondering if any other colors were considered that might match into the landscaping a little better. I've seen newer metal buildings, kind of like tannish gray, green, black, that just might match in with the landscaping or trees.
I can let Dennis answer that, but just keep in mind that New England bonds
It's a great
are really, red and white bonds are really what you see. Sure.
I mean, drive around Monroe Carver and see how many red barns you run into.
And that was the intent, you know, we tried to go with Red Barn look. You know, we can speak with ownership and see if they're open to changing color, but that was our intent behind that color, was to sort of create a New England Red Barn look at that. And we thought it was the best choice and best application for this site, so.
Well, when we were here, when we were in front of the zoning board back in October, originally for these 7 buildings, it was only going to be the 3 ones that actually faced Plymouth that were going to be the barn red, and the other ones were going to be kind of standard white. And we were actually asked at that meeting to make them all red because it's the center of town. So.
And once again, we are going to, the golf course where hopefully we have a lot of customers who are, we're trying to entice them from that. It's very important to us to look the right way as well. So, whatever town finds, we're probably in the same boat.
Making them up color like that, we appreciate it. Where it is in the center of our town. Your attention on that was great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Fred Corrigan from Rosewood Drive. In answer to, or partially, one that just came up with the trees, and I appreciate what this lady is saying, because I have the same problem down at the mobile home estates, where my backyard is beautiful, but some of my neighbors look like trash. But anyway, if you pick, there are a number of arborvitaes that are available that will grow 30 feet high and 10 feet wide, and very fast. So that would mean you would not have to plant a lot of trees, because you could start breaking this up with, let's say, 12-foot high arborvitaes at a reasonable cost, and put them in there, and they would grow, and you don't have to prune them, you don't have to do nothing, but just let them go. If you want to see what they look like, come down the park, because we've got some just like that. Okay? And that would help that scenery. All right, my questions are, this project is 400 feet off from 106. Did I catch that right? What's happening to the 400 feet in front of it, between 106 and the front of these buildings? Secondly, what is the width of this lot? They're not taking the whole lot that's there, okay? What else is going to transpire in front of this between 106 and this new project? And thirdly, what type of landscaping is going to go into that particular building? Fourthly, what is the width of that driveway? And exactly where is it going to exit on the 106? And knowing that there is traffic coming in and out of there, and that sometimes it's going to be maybe even a big moving van or what have you, we need to have some reasonable width, okay? That's basically my series of questions. And if this lot in front of this is 400 feet deep, you got a building lot still left right in front of this building. Is that going to be utilized?
There's a catch basin right there that's catching all that water. That's what that green lot is. So I don't think you can build on that, correct? Right, so.
There isn't 400 feet in front of the buildings that is not being utilized. If you look at where we're talking, the 400 feet is because there's already developed properties on Plymouth Street. We're back here, there is a detention basin in a wet area over here, which really wasn't wet, it just got a lot of water from all the drainage that came in from the street. That's what's in this area here. There's not something else going in there. It helps in the buffer. As far as the width that you asked about, the location of the driveway is opposite the lights and the driveway that goes in the Stop and Shop. It's directly opposite. And the width of this is 3-lane, so you're looking at approximately 36 feet. Okay, 2 in and 1 out. Okay, so that's what you're looking at in that area there. I don't know if I missed one of the other questions there.
What type of landscaping is going to go in front of this?
Well, there's landscaping, as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but there's along the detention basin, there's landscaping that's going in front of building A, around the side of the detention basin along the edge of the entrance road. So it's tasteful coming in to make it look right and to make it so that it's, it's attractive to the town. It doesn't create a hindrance. It's a better looking driveway, quite honestly, than some of the other uses that you have that are further back from the road. But I won't name them.
How far back is the gate?
Excuse me?
How far back is the gate, the entrance gate?
The gate, that's more like almost 550.
It's back there, okay.
Oh, yes, way back here. Back here. There's parking that's just outside the gate for customers. And then there's the gate.
I just want to make sure we don't have people pulling in off of 106, hitting the gate, stopping, and then you got that whole mess. So
No.
I don't assume it would be.
No, the parking spaces that are here are for doing business at the office. And, one maybe for an employee or whatever. And then the other ones that are down here are for people that are doing business in that building in the back, the two-story building. Those are not storage spaces, those are just live spaces.
And one last question. Are you gonna have signage out on 106 that advertises this building, and where is that gonna be, and how big is it gonna be?
To the left of the driveway coming in will be a freestanding sign there. That will be advertising the location. So as you come in the driveway, it'll be right to the left of the driveway.
Yes, okay.
And that driveway will actually come out right at that light, it's at Stop and Shop? Is
That's
that correct?
That's correct.
And we have specific bylaws as far as signage goes, so they'll have to fall within those guidelines before anyone signs off.
We'll discuss that with you later.
And the speed limits.
Yeah, and not only that, I'll be discussing that with you too. Thank you.
In the presentation I gave the board on the last page, exhibit C is the photo sign.
Thank you.
Frank Johnston, resident Elm Street. I've got several questions for you fellas. On the two-story building, you mentioned the entrance is on the backside toward the golf, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I'm sorry.
How do you exit?
We have emergency exits throughout the plan.
No, I'm talking about the two-story building. Is it a in and out through the same door, or do you go in one end and come out the other end?
In and out.
So it's a drive-through?
Same door in and out.
Okay, so the vehicle turns around inside the building?
No vehicles go in the building.
Okay, so it's not a drive-through then?
No.
Okay, so people unload their stuff in the parking lot and then wheel it in?
Cargo in, yeah.
This is kind of the floor plan of the two-story building. So this is the loading bay right here on the first floor. And basically you've got elevators here to the second floor, as well as door access in on the first floor, elevator up to the second, and you can circulate this way.
Okay, so they come into that vestibule area.
The vestibule area, and then you go wherever you
Yeah,
want.
because a lot of them have a drive-through where you go out the other side, that's what I was asking.
No vehicles in the building.
Okay, and then on the single story, is that going to be batten board as well, or is that just going to be a tin building?
It's the same, they're all going to be metal buildings that are fashioned to look like batten board.
So it'll look like the back building?
Yes, all.
The single stories will?
Yes, all eight buildings will look like.
On the detention pond or retention pond, how's the outflow work? Is it through a gate, a weir system, or a pump system?
It's a weird system, you cannot use the pump system.
So it's not a gate system. You're not controlling the flow on the outflow of the gate. It's controlled by the natural elevation of the primary basin.
It's controlled by the size of the pipe and then the overflow of broadcasted weir.
Yeah, so it controls itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have a pump system in
Oh,
there.
no, absolutely not.
And you don't have a gate system to shut the flow off if there's issues at the golf course.
No.
So when it's flooding, let's say we get a heavy flood, the golf course is going to collect all the flood waters.
It's only going to get it throttled to them. It's going to still be held in that basin, okay, and then it'll be let out at a rate that's no greater than what happens right now.
So it won't overflow is what you're saying.
That's right.
And what's the diameter of the weir basin? 36, 48, 64?
It's a smaller orifice than that. I can't read my writing here. The head wall has a rectangular weir on the top, which is about 8-inch, like a dip in.
Right.
And it has a 8-inch rectangular weir also.
So the outfall is an 8-inch.
8-inch rectangular, and then above it, it opens up to be like a broad crested weir higher than that.
So what's,
So in other words, it throttles a small events and never sees the top one. It
yeah,
always sees the small one. But it's made so that there's no real, there's no need to, you monitor it and you watch it, but it functions well. I mean, it's not like it's pushing the edge of what it takes to adequately take water out and not have something blocking it.
so your ditch line that's going to carry the water will be a certain depth by a certain width, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
What is what's going to be carried out?
Yeah, the ditch line will be X wide and X deep.
There's an existing ditch that's along that stretch that the dish drive is to. And I don't recall whether or not it's actually 4 feet across and then it has tapered sides, but it has, it has a trapezoidal kind of channel.
The bulk of the water is going through the drainage system.
Yeah,
Solid pipe.
That's only seeing the water from the entrance room. Okay, it's not seeing the storage from here. It's going out the backside of this pipe system, and then that's going through an 18-inch, I believe it is. 24, actually, the last section is 24. It's 7-4 bay, double 7-4 bay.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. What's the
There's
carry?
2 7-4 bays on this side, and then it goes to detention basin.
Right, so it can handle a heavy flow.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then the final question I have is extra space where your operator's going to be at the facility?
Yes.
So it will be extra space then. So it'll be a national firm, not a local firm.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, thank you.
Do we have anybody else that would like to ask any questions? Okay. Bring it back to us.
Would you like a motion to close the hearing?
I don't think so, not yet. I think we should discuss it and then
Oh, I mean, as far as,
maybe.
we close the hearing and then we have 90 days to vote on it. So,
I think we might need to look.
I was thinking that we could discuss it and that we might need to continue it. I'm not exactly positive until actually we all talk.
Are we waiting for any more information from any of the boards or
Well,
conservation?
we've already had the 30 days, so we haven't received any decisions from conservation as of yet. But one of the things that I believe we have to talk about is the fact that they need a special permit for use, for storage, and one of the reasons that I was thinking that we need to push this out and continue it versus close it. Does that make sense to you guys? Because I'm sitting there thinking, we sent everybody else from business districts to get a special permit for the use of storage, and their primary use is storage. If we don't continue on that, we're not being consistent, and we need to do that.
What is the zoning on this? What is it? It's open, it's correct.
Yes, we do need a special permit from the ZBA. We spoke to them in October. They told us to come talk to the planning board first. We talked to conservation on February 14th. They told us to come talk to the planning board.
Interesting.
There is one other thing that, as it matters to us, it's not necessarily as it matters to you, but the way the clock sets up now, it's obviously very beneficial for us to get the construction started before the ground freezes again next year. And we're moving close to the point where this gets, and given how anemic, the economics are on this, it does matter. Once again, you have to do what you have to do at the board level, but it is important to us to get this done soon.
The special permit isn't through us, it'll be through the zoning board.
For storage. I mean, the special permit for the size of the building,
Yeah.
but again, like we've done before, we wait to okay everything until everything's okay by every other board, so that we're not okaying site plan and then having to go back.
But if all the other boards are pointing them to us, then I think it's our responsibility, if we've heard from the public, if we've asked all the questions that we feel and everything lines up, then to give either our approval or denial and move it forward to the next board so they can continue one way or another. I would think.
If I might. I think what's important is everybody's looking to you to approve the components of it that you need to approve. And to put the kind of conditions that you feel are appropriate to be put on those. Because those conditions are important to the zoning board to know that it has conditions. They may have a couple of their own, but to know that you put conditions on it that makes them feel more comfortable with the storage use in the back there. So everybody is looking to you to act first. That's my impression.
I would think that, my own personal opinion, so I think what Bert was asking is if we should close to the public so that we can discuss.
Close the hearing,
Close the
right,
hearing.
area of 90 days.
To the public to discuss.
No, and I understand that 100%, but I didn't want to have no decision made. I was just discussing this as a way that we might go, just in case we need to keep it open for any public discussion if anything changes. Yeah.
I personally think that based off of the information that was presented and the questions that were asked by the public and the community, and I'm assuming, knowing our community, if something was said that wasn't favorable, they would have let us know, which I did not get that impression. So I think a lot of questions were asked and satisfied, and assuming that we put in there that the drainage in the back of their yard is routinely maintained, and also the discussion of the giant arborvitaes are put there for your, for their aesthetics purposes. I would have no problem moving forward to give a decision on our end to move forward to the zoning board. Would zoning board be next? Or?
They would definitely need to go back.
No, I get it. I'm saying from us, if we vote to approve, it goes to zoning next.
Yeah, they need to have a storage facility in commercial district.
I agree with you. I think kind of best of both worlds. If we vote to close the hearing, and then it gives us 90 days to actually make a determination as a board on it. You kind of, people want to send in a letter and write it in, it can be read into the record, or
So that's to say that we wouldn't make a decision.
we wouldn't have to make a decision. We have 90 days to make a decision.
It's a long time, it's 3 months.
Right.
I mean, here's my thing. Let me ask you a question. So just let me play devil's advocate, right? So we just heard the whole project. We heard from our community. They asked their questions. The questions were answered. They have another opportunity to stand up if they weren't satisfied, right? Then it was turned to us. We added the special additions for the abutters, right? And then what would keep us from approving it to get to the next level of the zoning board so that if anybody had any questions, concerns, or comments, they could bring those to the zoning board because they're the ones that are going to approve the special permit?
Well, I think personally, Rick's questions regarding, the retention pond being permeable, the entry exit that was going to be shared, that was mentioned tonight too. I think there were a couple things that I would like, even though we closed the hearing to the public, I think those things I'd like to hear from conservation and whatnot in regards to that. I do think on the review also, I certainly think it's fantastic that, they're well intentioned to take care of the water and whatnot on Mrs. Alger's property. I don't know if that should be in writing or in put down as a condition, or if they need to, or if they need to do some kind of legal thing, you know?
So I guess my concern would be is that, as we've all fallen victim to that vicious cycle of conservation sends to zoning sends to us, everybody says come to us, and then we say, hold on, wait, let's give 90 days to go back to conservation. So as far as I'm concerned, from everything that I've heard, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to move forward with a conversation knowing that those next two like we're not the last stop, we're the first stop here. Well, the third stop to go back onto the road, right? So why we wouldn't have some kind of conversation or decision to decide whether or not to move it to the next floor. It's more what I'm saying. It's not like if we approve, you guys got your plan, see you later. It's not, if we approve it because we like, or we approve of everything we've heard, then it still has to go to conservation, still has to go to zoning. So they're also going to do their due diligence on questions that you might still have.
This still have to go up to that, right? Somebody to.
Yeah.
So there's peer review.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we close the hearing? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
And then at some point, within the 90 days, make a decision, or it doesn't have to go for 90 days.
We'll
You could
send
do
it
it.
out for peer review, and then we will move forward from there. Okay? Is that,
So the next step is to send everything out for peer review.
Right, I think one of our concerns is that we get to the zoning board in 2 weeks, and to your point, they're just asking us to keep staying in the circle, and we're running, this time is tight.
yeah, we just have to do what we have to do. Are you already scheduled for your special permit for use with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm glad you knew about that. I was horrified that you didn't.
You were what?
Horrified that you didn't know about the special permit for use.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that you did. Okay.
So, okay.
We really can't go back to them until there is an action.
Right. And we can't give you an action without peer
Continue
review.
because they told us specifically that they want to plan for that.
So we can't give you a decision without a full peer review.
And we need a full-size site plan in our files. We don't have
We have a full up.
that. Site plan. We don't have the full-size site plan.
You do.
Do we? It's already talked from here. Is that it? Because we don't, right? We don't have a file, right?
How long does the peer review usually take?
We have.
Sorry,
we
from
have-
9/9, from 9/9?
Those are the ones that went with the drainage reports, I believe.
You're talking about November, right?
We had full sets of plans.
Submitted on
We have full sets, we have full sets of plans that have 14 sheets. This is a small setup. So we had 14 sheets.
I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
How long does the peer review take?
We have a revolving account set up for you guys. We need a revolving account set up with the planning board so we can send it out for your review. We just call the town hall and set it up.
We have to set up, or is set up.
If you don't have one. Do you have one? You don't have that?
We'll do whatever we can, I'm not sure.
We've never been asked to, we've been never asked to do that.
Well, that's how we would have you pay for the peer review.
Well, I understand that we've never been asked that question.
What was?
Well, that's a good point, how long does the peer review take?
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to get accomplished, right, is, for the sake of efficiency, right, and getting off of the hamster wheel of death of what it seems like. We send hamster wheel of death. I use it often, especially with town politics, right? So we send everybody out, every project out for peer review. It's something that has to be done. We can't pick one project to do it and not another, right? That's obviously going to throw a wrench in your timeline for the zoning board.
No, they can go to the zoning board.
But the zoning board is saying, what did the planning board say? And then they're gonna go to the zoning board's gonna say, what did the planning board say? And they're gonna say, well, we just went to them and now we're sitting in peer review. And then they're gonna go, well, then we're gonna wait to see what the planning board says.
They can
Hence
still,
the hamster wheel of death.
they can still decide whether or not the use is located in a commercial district without.
Well, they haven't been willing to do so yet. They said that we need.
We'll get to that. We're on their schedule for what day, this second, do you know when it is?
March 13th.
March 13th.
The Monday.
So, still the same question on the table. How long does a peer review take? A couple weeks, okay. Which means they could be on our next agenda.
As long as they're on schedule.
Okay, who's on schedule? Them on schedule or?
The engineer.
The engineer. Okay. So if this is done efficiently, it could be on our next agenda. Okay. When's that?
March 16th.
Okay. So our next meeting is March 16th. The goal would be to have the peer review done by then. Right? Now, I would suggest if Amy feels confident that you'd be able to go to the zoning board and say, they send everybody to a peer review. They want to do the site plan review after that's done, but they said that we may be able to come here and, discuss with you guys about the special permit. If they're not willing to do that, you may even be able to reach out to them ahead of time before that and then get on their very next meeting, because one way or another, if we can let's just decide one way or another, instead of hanging you guys out in purgatory forever.
There will be, the meeting on the 13th would have to be continued because they will not do anything unless they have action.
So what's the next zoning board after our next planning board?
It would be in April. The first, second Monday, the research time.
Okay.
It sounds like us. But we also have conservation on the 14th.
Yes.
Not as adamant about getting clear path from the plan as zoning, but civil.
So I also think that if we can add into, unless anybody else has any suggestions as far as what they'd like to have added to it, like the drainage maintenance and the arborvitae's, or the whatever verbiage that is, it doesn't have to be an arborvitae. Then you may be able to get through conservation with that, saying this is what we're doing, we talked to the planning board, this is what came up. If we can have that, obviously it would be in the minutes, which would also be able to be presented, that we discussed it and agreed upon. What are your thoughts?
Close the hearing, and then we go to make a decision on it. We as a board would have it all spelled out, the conditions, A, B, C, and D,
At the next meeting.
Or when we decide to vote on it, yes, no, good or bad, based on the following conditions.
I think because we just can't waive the peer review. If we do that and it's done efficiently, you're looking at beginning of April for the other boards.
But I would suggest to you, if you're saying is that the peer review is going to have to come back, then you can't close the public hearing.
Right.
You can't, you have to continue the public hearing. Because anything that comes out of it that requires any other submittal by us or by anyone can't happen if you close the public hearing.
I 1,000% agree with Brian.
I would just rather have another public hearing if there was some kind of change to what you proposed to us. So unless you're going to change something down the road, this is what you're going with, right?
Or the engineer.
That's correct. When the peer review comes back and says he doesn't agree with this, or this, we have to make a change to the plan. If you close the public hearing, that's not the plan that the public saw.
Right. I say we get the peer review done ASAP, And then that way, whether it gets approved or not, you at least know where you're standing, but why keep circling that?
No, yeah.
That-
I would ask you to continue the public hearing until then.
I would agree. So we can continue, and we need to do date certain times, so we can, I'm looking for a motion to continue petition number 981.
We're always, as far as time, I'm not going to do it, I'm sorry. We're always, as far as constructive approval, do we have enough time to do this, or do we need an extension from them? When the last extension was agreed upon until what such date?
Extension until April.
We have, at least until April 2nd. Should we push that out? Or we can always push it out at the next one if we have to, but that's what we want.
I think for October, we should ask for an extension until May.
Well, if we're going to continue the hearing, and we're not going to close, we're going to close the hearing, which would give us 90 days. But if we continue it, then we've got to be cognizant of
Yeah,
it.
April 2nd.
April 2nd.
Do you want to ask them for,
We have another meeting.
I was gonna say, we have another meeting.
Yes, we have another meeting. So, you know, like you said, Brendan, like you said, if all the ducks
Line up.
on the road, we could have it.
why don't we continue to
Just-
the next meeting, which is March 16th, and we'll do it at 7:30.
The only question I have is, there are two things. One is the site plan, and the other is the special permit. So if the board was in a position to vote on the special permit, do you need a peer review for the special permit part? Or is it the site plan part?
But I also would think where we're oversizing, where we're making an oversized building, I want to hear what they have to say about the drainage and everything for peer review before I would approve that. That would be my opinion.
So it's a continuation of both, basically.
But with some direction and the timeline of what to do next to start making progress in one direction or the other.
I want to make sure my client is clear as to what he has to do to get that revolving account in place.
I'll call the town hall tomorrow.
Okay, so then I will be looking to continue the public hearing from today for petition number 981 to March 16th at 7:30 PM. Does anybody want to move that motion?
I would move that motion.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is September 16th, Christmas tree site plan review. You ready? Is Mr. Maloney gonna come, or are you presenting this, or is Joe coming, or what have we got?
Here I am.
We want us to continue it to the next meeting.
Do we?
What do you got?
As long as it can be open, but how are you
Well,
with
it's
this?
site plan, it's not an opening of the
Oh, we really,
So what are we waiting for this week?
We were waiting for the comments. So we have, some of the comments we received last meeting. Because we were a couple days before the 30 days was up. Last meeting. And that was
What's that number?
January 17th, 2023.
You're the same, but I don't know what that. Did you write the plan on the 17th and then one on the 18th for copies?
I think so, yeah. The last time was, you received a copy from Woody.
Oh, right, it was the next day, correct?
That was a revised copy of that.
The one that I met you in the office for. Oh,
And I just, filed that for, because I have to go on the, ZBA for a special permit for open air.
okay.
That's on April 10th.
Okay, so you're going for a special permit for, that was the last meeting. Open air business outside sales per 167.7.
And the special permit to put a greenhouse on business.
Okay. And must comply with 521 CMI Architectural Access Board. And then the building office will give you the permit for the trailer.
Yes. That's not, the trailer won't be in for 6 months or more,
And then we just need locations, and it would be okay by the Board of Health to have it hand sketched for where the locations of the porta potties will
so.
be.
There will be right behind the greenhouse, out of sight. I already talked to the board out there.
Yeah.
They're all temporary structures to be removed within days.
Right. And what about the CMR code for the handicap parking?
It's all gonna be crushed asphalt, and you can run a wheelchair on it, and I already talked to the previous building inspector. And that's what he told me to put in, no wood chips, just hard ground, so people, where the parking lot is, that's what the entrance to the greenhouse is gonna be. People that will be walking around between the plants, it's all gonna be hard, crushed asphalt.
Sort of like where you were.
What's that?
Sort of like where you were
You dirt road.
at 314. Almost a little bit.
Was it?
It seemed like it was harder.
Oh, it seemed like
that.
that. Where did you have to go, please? Was it dirt or was it crushed asphalt?
That was dirt,
It was done.
it was all dirt.
Yeah, but like you said, it's not.
Where I had the mulch and the firewood, put crushed asphalt. But the rest of the stuff was, that's the way when I walked in there, that's the way it was. In front of the building was asphalt. In front of the garage, that was asphalt. Everything to the building, the lot was all,
Because it wasn't on a water place prior to that.
yeah.
Yeah. So are you making more parking spots from what he had previously?
No, I don't need any more than that. There's like 14 parking spaces.
Messiah, this is where we get into the whole thing where Maloney needs to do the entire site plan because of the fact that he's adding uses to a site plan that has a certain amount of parking spots, and he's trying to add this. So like, this is what keeps preventing anything from happening here, is that he needs to come and update the entire site plan to show where all the parking is and that it can, like, that the entire property complies. Not you.
From
You
what
know what
I
I mean?
understand, that there's more than enough parking to, for that, even for that, for around,
The rest of them aren't, all right, so.
How many do you need?
Or it's the whole site. So, this is not.
Well, how many is needed for that?
Maybe we need the whole site plan to find out about parking spots, and we're talking on the 47 acres.
Because that's the way that
It didn't seem like we were shooting everybody down because you won't come up with a full site plan. That's the whole thing right here.
Well, under one, if I can, under 16728, the board can, in the site plan review article, the board can vote to set conditions or actually make, what am I trying to say, make so it's not necessary. And from what I understand, didn't we vote on that once already? You know, when they were doing the canine, that the board voted, I think it was 4-1, that a full site plan of wetlands and everything, other than what was already submitted, was not necessary. And it seems like if this is the only portion that's being in question, we've already chased one business out. You know, it seems to me there's more than adequate parking and whatnot. And we did vote on it once before, it said it wasn't necessary under a site plan review bylaw.
we need in March of 2022, before, I'm sorry, 2022? March.
Canine, it was the canine,
Perhaps last
I
year.
believe.
Yeah, it was last year.
But then he had to go to conservation because they changed things, and then we talked about parking and the changes of the parking and how they were dividing up the building and how things were changing, and that we needed a full site plan based on that.
No, this one here, this we voted on with the auto body guy that we kept having him come back and come back and come back until he finally got frustrated and walked off also.
Right, which is why I don't understand why the owner won't come back and make sure that everything that he's proposing, because we're allowing an additional tenant without a full site plan with all the changes. He's taken apart the entire back of the building, moved out woods behind the building, just in the recent.
But again, as a board, 4-1, we voted on that it wasn't necessary.
And then last December, we also said that they needed a full site plan, so there's
Well,
two.
we never voted on that, it was asked of them to do it. But I think we're just going round and round and round. It's kind of
ridiculous.
Well, it
we've
is.
already chased two businesses out of here.
Well, and we don't want to do that, however, we have to have the owner of the building, of the property, come in. We have a bank. If we don't follow CMR code, then that'll be a problem for him. There's all kinds of liabilities set in this.
I agree with Rick.
No,
How much parking are you going to put in the wetlands? I mean, it's
Well, it's already labeled out, which is different from what it was.
already been flagged, it's already been everything.
So,
I
yeah.
don't see what else more you could possibly want. I don't see what else you have to have.
I mean, the code that you're talking about, that I already talked to the building inspector. And I told him what I was gonna do.
Yeah, you said the process
Yeah.
I can see. That is the full.
I mean, I don't see what else you need, I don't see why.
Do you see why I'm saying this? Because that's the one. That's it. There's only one.
I mean, I don't see any issues here at all.
So that's the full site plan, that's the one that
I
you
don't see why you need any more than that.
Well, Rick, I was just explaining that.
Yeah, well, of course, that one is sketchy.
That's
I
the
mean, this
one.
is the determination of everything you have to see. It's a one that concern.
The one that Robbie presented to you when he was here, that's the,
Okay. Well, I think because we were looking at this one.
Yeah, no, I mean,
this is page 2.
I don't see why it's not having to just keep going around like this.
Well, again, we just did that.
Yeah.
Does that mean you go to area?
No,
I don't see why
But
you're wasting
again,
your
now we
time
wouldn't
instead
be
of
going
this.
to, because we have to be consistent
Be consistent with what?
with everybody else. We've already voted that everything that comes before us needs to go to everybody.
Yeah, except the stuff that hasn't come before us.
Since that time, right? Since that time is when we made
Well,
it.
that time was a few times. But I don't see any need for peer, if I send this out to peer review, I don't see the need.
what's peer review going to tell us? Yeah, that's my point. You know, you could see different other, each application, each petition in front of us has to be judged on its own merit. But, you know, again, staying consistent, I do see you.
That's the hardest part, is if we pick and choose, then it starts getting, it seems as though every single thing we do is warranting a warning or a complaint mainly. So we tell, if in the same meeting, we tell these guys, sorry, reschedule your zoning and your stuff for a site plan, and then we don't do it with this site plan. Now, here's the good news, we finally have a full site plan, which we didn't have the last few times we talked about it. If we can get the full site plan, we can do the peer review, we can have this all wrapped up by next meeting.
And you'll have them gone in front of zoning
I'm going in front of the zoning.
so we'll be wrapped up before you even go there. Does that work for you?
Which is
So
the
we'll
same.
need a revolving account, and you're gonna have Maloney set it up.
What's that again?
We're gonna need a revolving account to have this peer review. Do you have, are you gonna have Pat set that up for the property? Are we gonna stick with, are we gonna do 2,000 like the last one?
I'm doing this on.
It's gonna run out to the-
$1,000 for it.
Well,
If it
it's-
costs
it's-
more
no,
than peer review,
no,
than it does for the green house.
Pat Maloney should be doing this for the entire property. I'm not proposing that CoSire as a tenant do it.
Well, he's,
I mean, this guy hasn't been very cooperative till now, so.
and you're going to have
Do you
to
think
put up
you can do
another
a revolving
$2,000.
account?
This is going to be another business we'll chase up.
Should I do it on my own?
You can.
And where do I go?
You just come to the planning, to the,
Can you do that? You can do that. Set up a revolving on a piece of property that's not yours. I don't know.
well, what are we gonna do? We still have to do it. I mean, if CoSire is willing to do it, do you wanna get Pat's permission to do that?
No, you should tell Pat, every single site plan that crosses the planning board has to go to site plan review across the board to avoid any kind of question of ethics or any of that stuff. So this has to go down, they have to have a revolving account on to get that done, and that should be on the owner of the building, on the owner of the building.
1,000% agree.
It should be,
I
again,
mean, that's gonna take at least, might as well give it up and go somewhere else. I don't see what peer review is.
we have,
Because where do we go with who just left?
Well, that's a whole different scenario. That's a whole different story. You got a lot of drainage and
No, it's not.
multiple buildings and everything else. There's a lot more involved in this. What is Pat Brennan gonna do with this? Why are we gonna waste his money and waste more time for Pat Brennan to look at this and go, what are you wasting my time for?
Because you can get sued for this kind of thing. Well, think about it. Who just left? What's going on with that?
Little common sense.
Is there, so all the buildings that are, all the structures that are going in there, none of them are permanent, right?
exactly.
But we're not just talking about that. We're talking about the fact that we just got a full site plan for a place that has all of that extra area cleared, and we need to have.
No, I get that.
It's not about his special permits for those things. It's about making sure that everything else on the entire site is okay.
So we have, okay, well, that's different. So we don't have the ability to just grant him the ability to move forward based off of the site plan provided. We have to drag the whole property into the mix?
Well, we didn't do it for the town. We didn't do it for
mechanic shop, so then we're opening ourselves up for liability on Main Street. They'll be like, oh, well, you told us that we need a full site plan, and then we had to go look for another place to go, and now we're not being consistent.
But we finally have a full site plan.
That needs
So
to
we
go to
comply with
peer
what
review.
they ask.
You know, I don't see why you need any more than this.
I guess I have a hard time with, I'm having a hard time
If you
with.
send this out for paper, what is Pat, we're just looking at, all this is all pre-existing, it's all
Right.
done.
But all of this is not.
All the being, of course, it's an existing septic leaching field, it's all
No,
existing.
it just came. And we don't have a site plan from the time that.
But this has nothing to do with this, this isn't using any of this. It's just a little piece of
It's
dirt
adding
that he
use.
wants to add.
It's adding a use to a property.
With all the structures not being permanent. That changes my
But
view.
it's not about pay to use, it's about,
But that's what the special permits are. Special permits are for users.
right, which you can go to zoning and get, and you probably,
Yes, I need two special permits.
I can't see why you wouldn't get them. I can't see why you wouldn't get them.
Right, that's the point.
However, this is about the site plan. No.
We can, it's meant to be the same.
Hold, let's not just jump through a thing, right? If, what is being asked of us, other than the period, what is being asked of us for him? To approve his ability to move forward with this project?
Yeah.
And that's taking movable structures, removable, whatever, mobile structures. It's for him to be able to do his business and move forward with the special permits from the zoning. I get what you're saying as far as the full plan site review needs to happen for the whole building, because we asked for that in the past for the whole site. But this, I can't see holding his project up
Well,
over.
wait, not, it's got scheduled for the, April 10th? April 10th? He's scheduled for April 10th. So we would be doing everything like we said, we'd be staying consistent, we wouldn't be putting ourselves
But I
over.
don't see what the peer review's gonna tell you, because I don't,
Well,
the structure that's on the property right now has a full site plan. Yes?
Yes.
there is at least
I'm only
the changes.
asking for that little area to put,
This has nothing to do with your little area, this has to do with the entire site having a use.
but the whole site has a site plan, yes? They have a revised site plan, that's what, I guess that's what they told me, they have a revised site plan, they
It's here, but we need to send it to peer review, so Pat Maloney will send it to peer review, that would be great, because it'll check off all the boxes. It'll keep us in compliance with everything that we've done on the last 2 people, 3, because what about those people that didn't, well, they needed to get none of the ones that were gonna do manufacturing, but they probably walked away because of the industrial use then, correct? So, that's neither here nor there, but
Did we get a peer review on Larry's Tacos?
that's.
Is adding a new business onto the site that's pre-existing?
Did he get a site plan? Did we get a
It's
period?
like-
No, no, no.
There is a full, so there is a full site plan that is, but this one's changed and it hasn't been cleared by, and,
This one's changed.
yeah. The one on Industrial Drive hasn't changed, they just added the trailer every couple of days here and there, and it passed with everything, correct? Did you vote for it?
Do we need to do?
But we were talking about is consistency. We have made.
This isn't about.
Please finish the sentence, please.
Sure, I'm sorry, but it's not about those items.
Because we are allowed to make, to remove conditions. We haven't had power as a board to make exceptions. And I think Larry's Tacos, and this is the exact same thing. What are we gonna learn from a peer review?
I'm not saying anything about Kosai's thing not going forward. That has nothing to do with the discussion. The discussion is about the owner's site plan. We don't have any control on whether or not the zoning board tells him he can have his temporary places. What we're looking at here is the same thing that we've been telling Maloney since December of 2021, that he needs a full site plan due to the fact that he has all these things changed.
What is gonna change from if he has a modified site plan?
Yeah, what's gonna be different from this site plan? What else can you possibly do?
So I think we're having two different conversations.
What I'm saying is it needs to go to peer review. This needs to go to peer review.
But I think that that's a different conversation than the Larry's Tacos. Okay, so I'm agree, first of all, I agree with both of you, which is weird, right? But, sorry, this. But at the end of the day, right, I agree because I was here last time that gentleman came in and we had that very lengthy, rather aggravated conversation about the full site plan and why I didn't need it, and what I did, that went back and forth. Now we have that, I get that. But under the same pretense of Larry's Tacos, it was, he's putting mobile structures on an already existing plan. So I don't see why we need to hold this project up. But was Larry's Tacos site plan approved?
The entire site had already been approved, so we were adding something onto the approved site and they had enough parking. This is not an approved site plan, it needs to go through peer review. That's the difference. It's a totally new property, it's changed more than like
So-
2/3.
So what do we have to give Pat Brennan to go through?
This,
Just this?
And he has to sign off on it.
and,
But to be honest,
But it's not
it
his
should be the owner of the building.
yeah, it's not.
And if the owner of the building is not compliant about it, that's a conversation that happens. We're not pushing all the businesses out. The owner of the building is by not just getting this done. Because and I mean this respectfully, once that's done, this conversation doesn't happen ever.
Promise.
It's on the record, ever.
Because it needs to be done because of all of the changes to the property.
So here's the hard part about this. If that was done, and I'm not picking sides on this because we're all on the same board here. If that was done a year ago for the dog people and the soap people and all this other stuff, he wouldn't even be stuck in purgatory right now. But it wasn't. So I I think he should be able to move forward with this, no question. But to Amy's point, this was asked for and now it's finally provided for. And before we go forward with any other business, that's got to get approved. Not his section, but the whole site so that we can add Michael Larry's Tacos.
But in the same, and pointing on to what like Rick was saying, looking at this, what's Brennan going to take us, what's Brennan going to tell us, when bottom line, I can see Amy's point, if finally find someone to run this out, and he's going to change the back of this, where K9 was going, then Mr. Maloney pays for the peer review, and he should be responsible for it. Right now, I think, my opinion is, like you said the last time, let's let the process run its course. I'd make a motion that we waive the peer review. I would make a motion.
I don't know, what part did I say that was going to run the course? Under which?
No, in meetings past. Just.
I think, unfortunately, I feel like if the owner of the business, of the building, of the property, just did his due diligence with this, all this goes away, and it can be done by the very next meeting, and then check off the box, and then any other business that wants to go in there, we have an existing approved site plan, and then each thing from there is approved.
He's gonna approve the site plan, not just this.
Send it in to him, and he'll tell us what he needs, right? That's how it goes.
But that shouldn't be out on your time.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
He had nothing, when I told him I'm coming here to do this, he said, you go do the site plan, do all that stuff on my end, not his end.
Of course not. All right, I'm probably not supposed to say that somehow.
What's that?
That's just too bad.
Well,
I mean, you're basically investing in his property, but we can't deter from everything that we do. And have a reason.
I saw the opportunity, and I'm taking the opportunity get the peer review to go forward for it, it's on my dime, not their dime.
That's too bad, because that's not how it should be. That's not how it's written, but
I understand that.
that sucks. That stinks.
But when you're against the eight ball,
Well, if we don't do that, we turn ourselves into a state lawsuit.
I can usually the guy will do it himself, but that's not my business, I guess.
moving forward,
So what do we do with this?
We need to
Give
set
them
up
a
a revolving.
continuation, till the next meeting?
Yeah, and we'll set up a revolving account.
How we set forward
What
a
time
time on this
We
application?
can meet tomorrow, we'll do it with, actually Peggy's on here tomorrow, it'll have to be Monday.
what do I gotta do?
The planning board office and the board of health office and the tax accountant will help us.
Do you think $2,000 is necessary?
I was just saying how much, I wasn't really stating that that should be the amount, I mean, we're a board here, I was just throwing a number out to
I think
start.
you
Really,
I have no idea what it usually costs.
Is there any other question?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Just,
Anybody know?
Last-
Did you have to
Is
set
it
up?
possible to say?
No, she was just making that recommendation.
No, I was just like throwing a number
Yeah,
out.
I'll do that.
No, throwing a number out.
So say $2,000
No, it's just,
It just states
It's not
that
about
he's gonna be
It's
paying.
not about farmstand.
He's
That's what I
going,
was trying to say.
he's gonna be paying for this other guy's site plan, that's what this is. In order to get what you want, in order to be able to put your business in, still, it's just not how it's supposed to go,
What is the,
You're gonna make it so that he can rent out the rest of his spaces.
what's that?
You're gonna make it so that he can rent out the rest of his spaces.
So once this full site plan that we finally received after asking for over a year, we finally got that, that's not approved, right? So now it's gonna go to peer review for full approval that will allow us to vote to have people like you come in and do that, because we can't add businesses to something that's not approved. Once that's approved for the big one, which you're gonna pay for to have your corner lot, he now has a full site plan to bring in any businesses to the rest of his building. That should be on his dime.
What is that gonna cost?
$1,000.
Well,
Or
we're setting up a
$1,500.
revolving account, we don't actually charge you, it's Pat Brennan who would
yeah,
charge you.
it's just money in an account to pay
Yeah.
the consulting engineer, and then if he doesn't, if you don't use it, then you get it back.
Yes.
Right.
That's all.
It's like a credit, it's like a line of credit.
Yeah. See you Monday?
Okay. So we'll vote to get a peer review, can I get a motion to send 416 Plymouth Street site plan given on 1/18/2023 to peer review?
I make a motion that we send this to peer review, and with a strong suggestion that you have a conversation with the owner of this building and say, listen, this is for your building, not my corner, I don't rent it, right? So that's my suggestion, that's not, but I would make a motion we send it to peer review so that he can move forward at the next meeting with a vote to move forward.
Amen. I get a second on that?
I know as well, I mean, yeah. It's just,
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
No.
And then we'll have you on,
The 15th.
yeah, and if the peer review is late for any reason, we'll just put you on the first one in April, which will still be before your special permit with zoning, which you can't do anything till then anyways, right?
Thank you.
just
Sorry.
whatever money you pay, just take out the rent.
Yeah, figure something out.
That's a great idea.
Well, have a good night.
I have some comments about, but it's speculative, so I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. As far as the business one, doing and that, not the paperwork.
There it is, right?
No, I'm saying, somebody wanted to fight having full site plan that didn't want to do it themselves. If you have a business that wants to go in there and argue on the battle, you do your job, not mine, and then they read your benefits. happened. And you know what? I'm not saying that's what was done, that's why I said it's speculative, but in my opinion.
All right, we're out.
Next on the list, we have discussed the update on secretarial interviews. I'm gonna need, to talk to you guys about maybe, setting up some secretarial interviews if you guys have any time that we can sit down with these secretaries and have some interviews.
How many we have?
8. And it was in the process and then we just went back. And does anybody want to help me in the office getting the agendas done? Or do you want me to continue doing it?
Well, let's do the secretary one first then. When do you want to do
That's
this?
what I do. I would like to get some availability of time for the interviews.
Daytime, evening?
Yeah, I was thinking sometime between like 12 and 2, set them up. Or
What do you want to do next week, or?
if we can set them up, I would like to get them as soon as we possibly can.
We're talking 2 days, 3 days? What do you want?
Wednesday, Thursday, I don't know, I'm looking for any thought processes, like any availability that you guys have for any interviews.
All right, I'll go Wednesday, Thursday, 12 to 3, if that's what you want to do.
And then are we good with?
Friday's kind of crazy for me, but Wednesday, Thursday would be all right. Or, hey, in the same breath too, Amy, if they said, hey, I can meet with you Tuesday, you know, give me a call and
And what about setting up on the agenda? Shall we continue to do so? Or does anybody want to do it?
sure, you can do. I mean, I'm
You're just so good at it. But that's just until we get secretary.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. All right, well then next on the list is I have an update an open meeting violation on Diaz versus Amy Eltry, which is myself, so I figure I will go over this open meeting law violation.
all right.
Okay, I have a open meeting law complaint from Alan Diaz of P.O. Box 314, Monpont, Massachusetts 02350. As an individual, he was complaining against the city and town of Halifax Planning Board, specifically myself, Amy Troop. He said that I made an alleged violation on February 2nd, 2023. He cited Amy Troop as vice chair, opened the meeting, and had to agenda ratified as written. Number 1, under executive session, Dealey Way had no specifics to notify the public that either there was pending litigation or any other issue that was required the secrecy of an executive session. The only pending matter for Dealey Way is a sinkhole on the private way. Ms. Troop stated she spoke with an attorney. That should have been clarified when the agenda was accepted.
Okay, so what do we have to do, Amy? We have to answer each one of these, is that what we have to do?
It's me, so.
Okay, well, so you have to submit an answer to what,
So-
questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, is that?
Yep, and that's what I'm gonna do right now.
Oh, okay.
So I have a email from Richard Huxham that told me to not share this in public. It said not a public document, attorney-client privilege document for Dealey Way. So that is why I put it on executive session. The next thing is number 2, 314 Plymouth Street, again, lacks specific reasoning for an executive session. And I'm just gonna go forward with the next one and do a 2-part answer. So number 3, recusal of Amanda Estates. Okay, so those 2 I didn't have exact on how they should have been written on the agenda, but I did ask and clarify from the town administrator's office and secretary, and also CC'd John Bruno, who's also an attorney and selectman, for directions specifically on how to do this, and I had them here. I also...
You said, well, you also said, well, his point is that there's no litigation pending. You said at the meeting that you had spoken with town council regarding the recusal. So was that Huxham also?
That was a public records request from Brodsky, I believe. Right? Well, it was something to do with the public records request from Brodsky. And that was to recuse Mark Milius as chair and Robert Gaynor.
Right.
And so my point in sharing all
But you
of
said
this-
town council, which town council was it? It wasn't Brodsky, certainly not our town council.
That information was shared at that town meeting. I don't remember exactly. I think it was Hubsam. Yeah, Hubsam and Noemi at the same time.
Hudson and who, I'm sorry?
Noemi.
Oh,
So I did look for that, and to further on that, I send out, before I post every agenda, I send out to every single member of this board, is there anything that you need to add? And do you have any issues with the agenda? And I ask for okay before it is posted. So therefore, I believe that I actually open it up. As far as the next on the description of alleged violations, number 4, the agenda does not notify the public of an issue at 101 Monpont Street. The agenda indicates the board is signing something, yet Ms. Troop led a long discussion of non-compliance issue. Yes, we did have a discussion about 101 Monpont Street where we did decide to wait until February 16th. Amanda Merritt was notified by email of the expiration of her site plan, which happened on December 2nd, 2022, and an update on December 15th, 2022 was asked for by our former secretary, Joanne Snow. And then I let Amanda know that she was going to be on our agenda, and she sent us an email which we discussed and put her on the agenda for February 16th. Then the next things that he alleged is that there was no roll call, number 5, no roll call vote was taken to go into executive session, and there was, it is on YouTube, Area 58, Halifax Planning Board, February 2nd, 2023, at 42 minutes and 10 seconds, where you can see the roll call vote.
did you notice though that on the roll call vote, the camera stopped and then it kicked back in? And so I think that's why he was claiming there was no roll call vote, because it actually stopped and then there was a small pause.
He asked,
And then he said, yes, and I think, so you, in explanation, yes, there was a roll call vote taken.
Yep.
It just,
And still, number 6, no disclosure about votes being taken and what was going to take place at the end of the executive session. And I did state that we were not going to come back into public session on YouTube, Area 58, Halifax Planning Board, February 2nd, 2023, at 39 minutes and 37 seconds to 39 minutes and 41 seconds. So this actually, because I ratified and the agendas with everybody on this planning board, and voted at the beginning of each meeting, and I have sent out to everybody before the meeting if they have anything to add, and if it is okay before it is posted. So therefore, this is actually a violation against the entire planning board and not just myself.
you also, if I may add, you also stated, oh, right there, you read out loud, prior to going into executive session as discussing strategy with respect to litigation or open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating or legal discussions of the town. So, in the same defense, she did make that quite clear that that's why we were going into executive session. Whether or not that's able to cover with all the other stuff. So,
But again, because I asked for everybody's input before we posted the meetings, and because we ratified at the beginning of the meeting, this is not just versus me, it is versus the entire planning board. because he can't tell me that I'm responsible for the agenda and all the motions during it when we all voted and we all participated in whether or not the agenda should be posted, whether anybody had anything to add. And clearly, I'm the only one that is able to do the work to get it done, but I still include every member on the board.
All right, where do we go from here? Do we need to officially, Amy, do we need to officially respond? So should we be notifying town council that, okay, we discussed this at our February meeting and probably be a good idea for them to draw something up, or do you want?
I already drew it up.
Oh, okay, all right, so there was specific.
Well, I just answered it. I'm gonna send in all the documents here. I will make sure there's a copy in the office for everybody. I didn't have time to copy it before we were here, but it shows. I mean, obviously, I can't show you I can't share the entire email from Huxham with the public, so I just have the beginning part here where it says that Daily Way is not a public document and an attorney-client privilege document. So that's why it was on executive session. And I did ask for clarification on how to write executive sessions. And I've been back and forth with the town administrator and secretaries and asked for help and tried to do the best that I possibly can. And that's why I send it to everybody and ask for clarification of anybody who received anything that they need to add or subtract.
I'm not bad about book. Did Amy Questle, when I got the break book, did Amy Questle come and speak to the board about executive session? I know there was a big explanation of executive session in the back of the book. And it says put on by Amy E. Questle.
I was never at a meeting with Amy Questle teaching us about executive
That's why
session.
we did something afterwards.
I don't have any
Can I see
of
that?
that. You certainly can.
So this was submitted by Mr. Diaz. Is this the same Mr. Diaz that used to serve on this board?
That's correct.
Under a PO address?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to question or put in, for whatever it's worth, that if there's going to be a complaint against this board, that not one person, especially somebody serving as a vice chair, who's stepping in for our chairman, who, for whatever reason, personal reasons or not, cannot be here. So to single one person out, whether it's Amy or anybody else, I think is tasteless. I don't think that's the right word. We can strike that and bring it back. I don't think it's appropriate, personally, especially for all of us that are here trying to do the best that we can for this town, and to single out one person for something that we're all doing, whether it's Amy or anybody else on this board, is, I think, inappropriate. I'd like to call into question what the motives are on this. Not that anything needs to be done with that at this point, but I'd like it to be in record that it's been noted that only she was named in this when we're all aboard and we're all responsible for everything that happens in the meeting. So, not that anybody needs to respond to that. I just want that on the record, that it shouldn't just be one person's name. That's all.
Appreciate that. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Mail, 29 Winter Street, Old Church Street, and Hanson Planning Board, the Meadowbrook Farm Planning Board is seeking public input for a relative to the proposed subdivision. I don't think that the mail is on my car. I can go get it if anybody wants to look at it.
I think it was just a notification of the action that was taken. So I don't know.
And I move that, well, I don't think that we have the bills put in here either. So,
Sooner we get the secretary, it's not better.
yeah, so we'll move forward with that. And so I would move that we pay the bill for Express newspaper at the next meeting, if that's okay. Is that all right?
You mean pay it now?
Well, we could, but we'll have to sign it at the next meeting anyway, unless
Make a motion that we pay the Express newspaper invoice number A11725CL for 0-314, Plymouth Street. Notice of a public hearing, and then move the signing to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting minutes, they're being worked on. She should have at least January 19th, set for the next meeting.
She is and she is.
Hey,
They,
hey.
because I heard they tried to hold Caroline over for a little while, for another week or so, to hopefully.
Yeah, get something done there. Okay, anybody have any other business?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, do I have a second? All those in favor?
Brendan Elliott, aye.
Andrew, aye.